everyone, and thank you for joining today's webcast. My name is Laura Haase, and I am a business intelligence and analytics consultant with Thorogood, working with clients to understand business goals and developing reporting, analytics, and database solutions. Presenting with me today is my colleague Amanda, and she is also a U.S.-based consultant with experience in similar development of reporting and analytics solutions. In today's session, we're going to be giving you an introductory look at Anaplan as a technology so that you can understand how it might enable more collaborative planning in your organization. And throughout the presentation and demonstrations, give you a better idea of where it might be useful across different business areas. I'll start with a brief introduction to Thorogood and then hand it off to Amanda, who will give an introduction to planning, some common pain points companies experience with planning and budgeting, and demonstrate some of Anaplan's core functionality. Then I'll speak to several business use cases spanning different parts of the business that Anaplan could improve based on projects we've done with our clients, including another demonstration. Amanda will finish the webcast, helping you to understand some key considerations to planning Anaplan implementation and what your next steps might be. For anyone not familiar with Thorogood, we are an independent professional services firm specializing in the delivery of business intelligence and analytics strategies, solutions, and services. We serve our clients globally with leveraged teams of our U.S., UK, India, and Singapore consultants. We recruit and train all consultants across our offices to develop a unique mix of business understanding, technical excellence, and analytic ability. This ensures our consultants are comfortable working with business users, managers, and IT alike to ensure that our clients are able to maximize the value they get from investments in tools, systems, and people. We work with some of the leading organizations in the consumer goods, insurance, financial services and banking, pharma, and healthcare sectors. Particularly relevant to our presentation today, I will be demonstrating an Anaplan demand planning solution for one of our international consumer goods clients, and Amanda will demonstrate a solution for premium modeling in the insurance industry. We work with our clients to deliver solutions using a variety of technologies, as we are an independent consulting company. We partner with key technology vendors that we think provide the best value to our clients in the business intelligence and analytics space. Specific to today's topic, we have been an Anaplan system integrator partner since 2014, and have built on a number of Anaplan solutions with our customers. If you have any questions about our partnership with Anaplan or projects we've worked on, please feel free to reach out to us after the webcast. With that, I'll now hand it over to Amanda to introduce Anaplan.
Great, thanks, Laura. So in this section, Getting to Know Anaplan, the objective is really just to familiarize you guys a little bit with Anaplan as a tool. And so we're going to look at a few things in this section. We're going to start by looking at why the business planning process is so important. We're going to talk about a couple of pain points that we see a number of our customers have in trying to facilitate those processes. And then really we're going to give you a demonstration of Anaplan so that you can get a sense of what it looks like and what it would be like to work with in Anaplan. So starting out, just thinking a little bit about the importance of the business planning process. Why is it that organizations do this? We know that business planning is prevalent across all organizations in different departments and in different sectors. And really, I think a lot of them are looking to achieve a number of different objectives with it. So we've just listed a few things here. The first one really being around understanding future expectations. So how do you align people really around a common vision and ensure that everybody is working towards common goals or targets? Another one is really around coordinating strategy and prioritizing action. So how do you give a basis to provide direction on where action needs to be taken by individuals or by groups and really organize activity around that within your organization? The planning process also gives a lot of companies the ability to effectively manage change or to put plans in place that will take them from kind of point A to point B. And so I think in general, all of these seem like quite sensible and valuable goals. We know how important it is to a number of our customers to be able to plan properly. But what we find is that really oftentimes that process for many of the organizations we work with can be a bit tedious and cumbersome. And so on this next slide, I wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the common pain points that we see arise from a number of our customers when they're going through the planning process, and in particular when they're looking to really align technologies to that process. What we find is a lot of times that many organizations have a pretty disconnected process, and that may be that they're using different tools or different worksheets. A lot of our customers obviously use Excel for planning, and there's a lot of different ways that people may be doing the planning process. A lot of times we have our customers comment on the lack of visibility within those plans. So if I'm working individually in my Excel spreadsheet, it's difficult for me to see maybe high-level plans or what other people are planning at a similar level that I am. So really bringing more visibility to the organization and to be able to see where those plans roll up and how they drill down is something that we've seen people struggle with quite a bit. We also know that a lot of times that planning process, if the proper tools aren't in place to facilitate it, can be done pretty manually, which can be very time-consuming. A lot of the organizations we work with will have pretty lengthy planning processes that take months to get kind of agreement on a plan. Alongside that is really the ability to compare different versions of the plan. So many companies will have multiple planning cycles within a year, and to be able to consistently compare your existing plan to past plans and really to improve your planning process through that is something that we've seen customers struggle with a bit. Similar to that, I think multiple versions of the truth. I remember a customer I was talking to just recently was saying that, everybody will enter their detailed plans, they'll get rolled up to a high level, and those detailed plans will be adjusted. But when the initial plan owner is asked why their figures are what they are, they've lost track of the process. They don't know kind of the auditing that had gone in place to see where those changes have been made to plans. So really getting to a point that there is one version of the truth and that any changes to plan figures can be traced back through time is something that we've seen be a bit of a challenge. And some of the other things on here is just the cumbersome process for it. And some plans becoming obsolete before they even finish if they do take weeks or sometimes months to complete those planning cycles. And more than anything, it's really just prone to errors and risks. So when everything is done pretty manually and isn't auditable, it's difficult to kind of see where changes were made and ensure that everything is correct. So some of those pain points, I think, are really what has made Anaplan become so kind of prevalent, particularly in the last couple of years. We've seen a number of our customers interested in adopting a solution that can really help facilitate that process and to alleviate some of those pain points. And so for those who are not very familiar with Anaplan, in short, it's a cloud-based enterprise planning and modeling platform. And what it really allows is for businesses to build centralized planning models that are tailored to their specific processes or operations. So it can be used not just for your kind of common financial planning, but things like demand planning, inventory planning, all sorts of aspects. And it's accessible to people through a web browser and also through any mobile device. So it's a software as a service type of offering. And while there are certain features of Anaplan that work pretty similar to Excel, and I think you'll see that in the demo, it's a lot more robust than Excel in terms of being able to have defined logic that gets reused within the organization, and also the ability to kind of see where changes have been made and to better track that planning process. So with that, rather than talking too much about the tool itself, I think it'd be good to show a demonstration just to give you a sense of what it's like to work within Anaplan. In the demo I'm about to do, there were really kind of four main topics that we're going to cover. So we'll start with a brief introduction to premium planning and an insurance model. And what we're really looking to do with this demonstration is to show some capabilities of doing what-if analysis in Anaplan that can be used to enhance the planning process. And we'll also show you how you can make some changes to that model and add commentary and calculations to help with some of the robustness that I was talking about. So for this particular use case that I'll walk you through, this application is something that was designed to provide an insurance company with the ability to analyze the revenue that they're forecasting. And within an insurance company, obviously, revenue is created by selling premiums. And what we're looking to do in this application is to look at our forecast for premiums against targets. So in this example that I'll go into, the targets have already been set, but what we want to do is some what-if analysis to adjust our forecasts to see if we're, in the middle of a year looking at our long-term plan, how could adjustments on those forecasts get us closer to the plan figures. So with that, let me open up the Anaplan browser here for you. And just as a bit of background, so with these models that we'll be working in an Anaplan, the way they typically work is that the model will be created by somebody within your organization, and then that model can be shared for a wider audience. And you can think of it similar to how somebody might set up, an Excel workbook with different calculations and connections in it, but with a little bit more robustness behind it. So the application I'm working with today has been built kind of custom to this planning process. So there's no need for me to kind of start with a blank application. Where we're going to start this demo is kind of looking at this screen that I have here. This is really a very kind of simple, what we call model in Anaplan, which allows us to see some information and also the ability to input information into this model. So what we're seeing here is just a high-level forecast information. We're just saying for FY 17, 18, and 19, the base forecast for price changes. So at what rate do we think we'll increase our prices each year? And we've got what was initially forecasted here, and you have a very simple interface which allows you to say that we would want to adjust that value. So if we had originally planned in our forecast to increase our prices by 3% in FY 17, I could enter 5% here, and this will allow the users to put in figures, and we'll show you how those will be used within the model in a minute. Something worth noting here is that within Anaplan, any of the black text that you see here is not editable. So it's text that's either used in a calculation or stored so that users can't adjust it. And then any text that shows up in blue, and you'll see as I'm starting to enter some figures here, any of that blue text is where users can input their information. The other thing I'll just note about this model is that you can see you have the ability, obviously, to see a grid of data similar to how you would input manual cells in Excel. You also have these filters across the top. The filters allow you to change the context of what's being shown in that table. So for this example, you can see I currently have personal selected here, and we're just assuming that the company really has two lines of business that do this high-level plan, a personal lines and commercial lines. And I can toggle between the two of them and enter my adjustments as I see fit. You can have security on this, of course, that limits it to just the lines that I'm responsible for planning for. So if I'm only responsible for the commercial aspect of it, you can make it so that when I enter this screen, I only see the plans that I'm allowed to input. Or you can make it that it's only editable for the plans that I can input. You also have the ability to see current forecasts or different forecasts and to be forecasting for different figures as well. I'm just looking at price change in this example. One other thing I'll show you here is that because this model has been built in a multidimensional way, users can really interact with it in the way that you might be able to interact with, say, pivot tables in an Excel model. So if I click on this pivot icon here, I can see that what I'm currently looking at are my line items. So that's my base forecast and my adjustment on my rows, and my times, those are my financial years on the columns. Pages up here are the filters that I just referred to that'll change the context of what you're seeing. And right now I've got my organization, some main assumptions, and versions. If I want to make it easier for me to forecast for multiple lines at once, I can bring my organization onto my rows. And this then brings that personal and commercial lines onto rows so that I could quickly or easily enter figures here to be input into an adjustment for that base forecast. So this type of information is valuable, having the ability to read certain information and also to write back certain information. But this is a pretty simple example. Where this becomes much more valuable for people is when we bring it into a dashboard. So within Anaplan, you have the ability to take a number of these different modules and to put them into the same page where you can start to see how they interact together. And you can also add different charts and graphs on there. And this dashboard that I'm showing you, this is a dashboard that's used to do that what-if analysis. And you can see that the screen we were just looking at there with the personal and commercial lines, that's my kind of top left quadrant here. I've also got things broken out here across two different types of business. So within an insurance organization, the premiums that you collect will typically come from renewals, so people who are renewing their policies, or from new business. And because we're really interested in understanding from a strategic perspective how we'll handle those different types of revenue streams, I've broken them out here so that on the left-hand side, we're seeing the what-if analysis for renewals, and on the right-hand side for new business. And as I interact with those models, the what-if results on the bottom will update as well. So you can see what I'm seeing right now in these charts on the left-hand side is my base forecast being this blue line. So that's the forecast that maybe everybody submitted their individual forecast, and this is the line that we got to. The green line is a target, which may be a high-level target that was set by the company. And this red line is our what-if analysis. So as we change some of the assumptions, how does that get us closer to our target? So I'll start right, the other thing I'll say about this actually is that not only do we have the ability to change some of the adjustments at a high level, but we also have the ability to change things at a lower grain and also to override different forecasts. So I'll start here by just showing you if I were to enter an adjustment for my personal lines, say instead of increasing the prices by the 3%, which was forecasted, we think we can add an additional 2% in FY17, we'll do 5% in 18, and 6% in 19. And we'll do that across the renewals line, and then for new business, we'll do 4%, 5%, and 6%. And you can see as I'm entering these figures in here how the charts at the bottom are changing. So we can see from that it's a bit late in the year to start to be able to hit the target. But if we make some of the similar assumptions for new business, we can see that we start to get closer, we start to bring our lines closer together. The other thing that we have the ability to do in this module is to override some of the default values that we entered. So many times you may want to have a default assumption that's made at a high level in a hierarchy, but you may want the ability then to change that at a more granular view. Right now, we've done just like a 2% adjustment for FY17 for all personal lines, but the chart on the bottom left here is showing you the ability to change that for specific lines of business. So we can see under personal lines we have vehicle, travel, and building, and we can see that the default adjustment that we entered is 2% because that's what we included for the personal lines, but I do have the ability to override that. So if we knew, for example, that in FY18, if I can change this to be FY18, we are going to put a significant push behind creating new business for the vehicle product line. I could override that default 5% and make it something higher like 10%. When I do that, I can see that my adjusted forecasts have changed here. And I can start to play with some of those different levers until I can get to a point with this what-if analysis that I have something that may potentially change the forecast or may be used for the next series of planning that we'll do. So that's a pretty kind of basic introduction to some of the things that you can do there. Something I wanted to show now is just the ability to add to these models. So you can have users who are just able to like read these models and input figures, but you can also give them the ability to change what is in these individual charts and to really evolve it over time. And we do see that a lot of the organizations who adopt Anaplan have users who are pretty good at being able to maintain and manage these models, which gives them some good freedom. So to show that a little bit, I'm going to take a look at this new business what if tab, and I'm going to show you how behind the scenes what this looks like. So this is just that one individual part of it, and you can see that when I switch to this, that the override value that I had included initially has come through here. but I may want to be able to provide some commentary for why I've overridden that value. So if I'm kind of responsible for approving the plan and somebody submitted that 5% figure to me, I may be able to want to give clarity to everybody in the organization why I've changed that value. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click this triangle button, and this takes us into a mode that allows us to add new lines to this chart. You can see I've got my base forecast and everything we've seen previously, but if I click this plus sign, I can add a new field for comments. So I'll just call this comments, and I'll add it at the end of my list here. And there will be no formula for this because I just want it to be an empty cell that users can enter data into, and I want the format of it to be text, because we want them to be able to type in whatever they want here. When I switch back, so if I toggle back to my other view of it, I can see that I've now got the ability to put comments here. So where I've overridden the vehicle default amount, I could just say this is, due to marketing plans for FY18. I could put my name, or I could have another field that identifies the user who put it so that you can have that information as well. So I've got the ability to add some functionality there. I've also got the ability to add different measures to this if I'm interested to. So you can see at the moment I've got the base forecast amount, and I've got a default adjustment and an overridden adjustment. But if I wanted to add more columns, or I wanted to hide columns from this, I could do this by going back into my triangle here, and I could add a new column. If I wanted, I could call this forecast adjustment amount. And instead of leaving it blank like we did for the comments, I have the ability to enter formulas in here in the same way that you might do it in Excel. So I could take, say, my base forecast and multiply that by my adjustment amount. Let's see this one. And so it's pretty basic formulas in here, and you can have that display anything that you want it to show. And you can see when you do that, that you can see what the adjustment amount is to now see what's been the amount that's actually been adjusted. If I save this view, it will automatically populate back to the dashboard that I was looking at. So if I go back to my Whatif analysis dashboard, I can see that I've now got the comments added in here, and I can do some formatting things around making this comment column longer so that it's easier for people to use, adding usernames to it and whatnot. And I can see the new forecast adjustment value field that I added. To summarize this demo, what you've seen really is the basic interface of Anaplan at this point, and some of the ways that you can modify and interact with it using different things like commentary and those additional calculations. So while this demo is really in the context of insurance premium modeling, there are a number of different business use cases and a number of different types of planning that's done at different department levels and organization levels. And I'm going to turn it back to Laura now. She's going to take you through some different use cases that we've seen and helped our customers with, and then show you another demonstration in a slightly different industry and topic.
So while Anaplan has been growing in popularity, we have seen that our clients tend to associate it initially with financial planning and budgeting. And it's only after some exploration that people begin to realize that it is applicable in other areas as well. So Anaplan can be really relevant whenever there is a need for organizational planning or forecasting, which can span any of the areas that we've shown in this diagram here. If you think of some cases in your organization where collaboration is done through sharing around different versions of an Excel spreadsheet, there's a good chance that you'd be able to centralize and streamline some of that process using Anaplan instead. So I am going to highlight 4 potential use cases for Anaplan, and you'll see that there's a lot of similarities between them despite them spanning a variety of business areas. And while there are aspects that are specific to each use case, there's kind of a foundational planning process that we've identified that you can understand how companies plan. So nothing too crazy here, but helps kind of create that foundational understanding of how planning really works. So in general, all planning processes begin with base information such as actual sales, anticipated premiums, or operation targets. And then the base data is manipulated to incorporate business logic either through statistical models or manual adjustments to create more robust forecasts. As that information is modeled, it's often shared within teams for feedback and collaborative review, which is iterated upon and fed back into the models and adjustments. Finally, it's very rare that planning processes end simply with generating a plan. That plan will often lead to standalone insights or actions to be shared with others, or those inputs can actually feed back into additional business processes and operations. So now that we kind of have this base understanding, let's take a look at some of these use cases that we've seen at our customers. So there are 5 main use cases we wanted to cover as part of today's webcast. The first use case was insurance premium modeling, which Amanda just covered in the first demonstration, so I'm not going to really go into that in any more detail. But if you do have any questions about that specifically, feel free to reach out. The ones that I will be covering are insurance reserve planning, demand planning, promotion planning, and operations management. And again, for the sake of time today, I'm only going to be demonstrating a demand planning example in Anaplan itself. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. So the first use case I want to cover is another insurance use case, which is reserve planning, and it brings together several different planning processes. So all insurance companies need to hold adequate reserves to meet regulations and cover potential losses. So in order to plan what they need in reserve, you need to expect bringing in inputs from other internal processes such as loss planning or triangles and your expected cash from premiums, and taking a holistic view of all of that information influences such as regulations for amount held in reserve. Joining these things together, you might do some modeling and what-if analysis similar to what Amanda showed in her demo to get a view of your best, your expected, and your worst-case scenarios, and then stress test your reserve model to ensure that it suffices for each of those instances. When you're satisfied with your model, you can then communicate that onward for further action or check in to review on a regular basis, checking your assumptions and adjusting accordingly. It's a pretty straightforward process, but a lot of different parts that are making that up. Another use case, and the one that we'll be focusing on in the demonstration, is demand planning. So whether you're producing consumer goods or pharmaceuticals, it's very important that your organization can get an accurate view of upcoming demand in order to manufacture the appropriate amount of product. Very often, this demand planning process is very collaborative. So we do have one customer who does demand planning on a weekly basis for their products. So each week they bring together the latest weekly sales data alongside the as-is forecast or their most recent forecast. Brand owners first take a view of this revised forecast, then they meet with their managers to collaborate and refine the next iteration of the forecast. It's worth noting that in this particular case, they need to be able to adjust the forecast at different levels of the product hierarchy to come to a forecast that they're happy with. From that weekly meeting, the brand owners and managers produce the next iteration of the forecast that's then shared throughout the wider business. So here we see the need for what-if analysis, collaboration, and working with data at various levels in order to successfully produce a plan. We'll spend a bit more time looking at this use case in the demonstration in just a few minutes. The third use case that we've identified is promotion planning, and it's obviously a big part of consumer goods, though it's really applicable in any company using promotional marketing. So promotion planning involves understanding what the incremental effect of promotions will be on sales across products and determine which of those promotions to go forward with based on the return on investment. Here, there's monthly base sales forecasted and available, and they're used as the basis on top of which event and brand managers can focus their incremental sales for each event. The event managers can then take this view of the forecast combined with cost assumptions for running each promotion and determine which promotions would maximize sales return on the promotional dollars spent. So you can see in this instance, the starting point for analysis and planning of promotions is having a solid underlying demand forecast already, and then joining that with understanding of promotional costs and anticipated incremental sales to determine a plan of action. The final use case that we'll discuss is based on the project that we did for a CPG client several years ago to help them track operations metrics around sustainability, production volume planning, and HR metrics such as headcount across their factories. So in this instance, we weren't actually using Anaplan for collecting data or facilitating the process, but using Excel. And the process itself became very manual. There were lots of files being uploaded and downloaded, emails being sent, and it became so unwieldy that they asked us to create an application that would allow them to track the flow of information. What I want to highlight is that the Excel-based nature and manual collaboration in this scenario, because it is something that we see all the time with our customers, and it is a prime area where Anaplan could add value. So in this particular case, the business was reporting on operation metrics, first at their individual factories, then at the regional level, and then summarizing up to an executive view. Every month, the factory managers would take a copy of last month's Excel workbook, delete the actuals from the last month, and then enter in the values for the current month. Each factory manager created a single workbook for his or her factory, posted it to a shared network folder, and then emailed their regional manager to let them know that the data was available for their review. The regional manager would then get the files and collaborate with the factory managers for any corrections or adjustments they needed to make. And then when the regional managers had all of their individual factory files, they uploaded those along with some additional regional metrics to the shared folder once again. Once all those files were present, they were imported into a database in a nightly process, which fed corporate reporting, and the business management was notified that the report was available for them to view. Overall, the process took a lot of time from end to end and required a lot of manual uploads and downloads of different files, as well as separate communication as to when things were done. Regional managers and business management were dependent on waiting on an email to understand when the information was ready and had no visibility into the plan until it was finalized. Additionally, an approach as manual as this introduces a lot of risk for error. So someone forgets to send an email or uploads the wrong numbers could cause a lot of delays in the process, as well as reporting incorrect information. So there's a lot of areas where Anaplan could help in a situation like this. And while we are going to be focusing on demand planning, a lot of those things could be used in this specific use case as well. So in this demonstration, I'm going to be addressing those topics that were pain points in that final use case. So specifically, how individuals update a collective data sheet, how notifications and control data through workflow, and how end results are shared. This particular application is one we built for a consumer goods customer, and they use it to plan demand for their products. So I'm going to jump over to Anaplan again, and I'm actually in a different model at this point than what Amanda was using. And this one has a nice landing page for users to access when they come into the tool. So the main users of this tool are account managers, as well as folks who channel managers. So there's a few buttons here. There's loading of the actuals, so bringing in the data, either manually inputting it or loading it directly from a database if possible. Then there was a statistical forecast that we actually jointly incorporated with the consumer goods customer using some of their business logic. The account adjustments is really where the account managers make some of their changes to the forecast. Top-level adjustments is where those channel managers come in. And then the results of all of this was an overall production plan for the year. So for this demo, I'll assume the role of an account manager and then a channel manager, just so you can see how different people would interact and use this tool. So the actuals and statistical forecasts have actually already been done for me. So as an account manager, I don't really need to worry about those. And I'm going to go directly into the account adjustments pane. So clicking on this button actually opens up a dashboard, as Amanda alluded to in her demo, where we have a few different modules. So we have a chart here, as well as some line charts and other information. And I'm actually responsible for cut price as the account. And you'll see when I clicked over to cut price, I now have this adjustment row that has blue data in it, which means I can edit and make changes here. So as the account manager, I know that for hair care, I'm going to get an additional 500,000 units each month for the fourth quarter of 2017, and that's actually going to continue into 2018. So what I can do is enter that number here. And rather than having to Control-C and paste it across or type it in everywhere, I can select that data point and edit and copy it across to all of the other ones. So now that adjustment has been made, I can see the impact on the chart here of adding an additional 500,000 units. If I switch over to skincare, I also have some adjustments that I would like to make. In October, I see that I have over 4 million units. But then nothing happening in November and December. And I actually know that I'm not shipping out all of those units in that month, and I need to distribute that a bit more evenly to November and December. So I'm going to subtract 2 million units from October and add in 1 million units to both November and December. And we can see that the chart adjusts accordingly. So once I've made my changes here, I'm happy with it, and I want to report to my channel manager that I'm done with my adjustments. So Anaplan actually has some native workflow functionality that you can customize based off of your use cases. So if I go to this workflow tab, I can see that cut price is in progress. I haven't made any changes here, or I haven't marked it as complete, rather, for my manager. So if I select it here and mark it as complete, I can click OK. And going back to my adjustments by account, I can see that now this row is no longer editable. So this is kind of the single version of the truth that my manager is going to be using moving forward. If I go back to the workflow pane, I can also contact people. So if Amanda here, as the direct-to-customer channel manager, is wondering where Emily's body care figures are, she can click on that one, send an email, and an email is generated to send to Emily. The next kind of role here is Amanda's role, so the direct customer channel manager. So she won't come in here and go to adjust by account because that's not her role. Rather, she wants to go in and make some top-level adjustments once all of the account managers have entered their figures. So another really cool piece of functionality for Anaplan specifically is the breakback functionality. So being able to apply overall change for the year and distributing that across the months in your year. So for right now, I haven't actually done my 2018 forecast yet, but I know that I want to have 1.6 billion. See if I have enough, not enough here. One more zero. I want 1.6 billion. And what you'll notice is this is distributed evenly right now because I don't have any forecast numbers of what those allocations should look like. So if I go back to FY17 and I do have figures here, I can actually hold the months that have already happened. So we're mostly through July at this point. So I'm actually going to hold these records. And then I can adjust this FY17 to be, say, 300 million. And now I can see that doesn't affect my earlier months in the year because those are the actuals, but it does evenly distribute, or rather proportionally distribute to August through December. And I can see that that's reflected in the line here as well. Once I'm happy with all of this, I do have some other options. So I can export things to Excel to do further manipulation or share with other individuals. Or if I'm interested in sharing the whole dashboard, I can export to a PDF and share with some other members of my team. So a very quick view of how this demand planning can be used. Slightly different use case than what Amanda showed, but also some really great functionality available with Anaplan to do that. So I'll pass it back to Amanda to wrap some things up here.
All right, great. Thanks, Laura. Yep, so we're just nearing the end here, but just wanted to take you through a couple things. Hopefully in this webcast you got a sense of some of the ways that Anaplan can help, so the versatility, the scale, how connected it can help you be, as well as some of the foresight and self-service aspects. If you are thinking about how you get started with Anaplan, what we suggest is really considering the business cases and the technical possibilities hand in hand. And so we're more than happy to help if you have any questions or to help facilitate the process to get you thinking about what the key pain points are in your planning process. A lot of times what we find our customers will want to start with a bit of a strategic proof of concept or an Anaplan challenge, which is effectively a one-day workshop we'll do to try to help start moving a model into Anaplan to see what's possible. And that usually helps customers just prove out the value of it, see what it would be like to work in it. After that, you'll obviously want to consider the value of more enterprise integration. We find a lot of times once customers have one module in Anaplan, it makes sense to do a lot of their other planning processes there as well. And then in parallel with that, to just think about some of the technical possibilities. So if you need help in how it can plan with other planning and budgeting tools on the market, things like Hyperion, TM1, feel free to reach out to us. And also how it might integrate into your current landscape. That's something that we're more than happy to help with as well. So that about wraps it up for today, and hope you will join us for another event soon. So we've got our contact information on the screen. Feel free to send anything you might be wondering more about to Laura and I. We're both happy to reach out and to talk with you about anything that might be of interest with Anaplan or other business intelligence and analytics topics. I hope you guys enjoyed the webcast, and you have a good rest of the day. Thank you.